So you're listening to Salford City Radio, 94.4 FM, with your host, Jimmy Petruzzi, on the Friday Sports Show, bringing you all the latest news from around the world and the local area. And our next guest is a regular. He's been on the show before on a few occasions. He speaks a lot of sense. He knows his football. Wolves legend. You can safely call him a Wolves legend. He's prolific down there, and he also works for the media, and he's a performance coach too. So maybe gives a bit of an insight too about how we can increase our performance and stay positive and focused in these challenging times. But it'll be interesting to see what his take is on the season. It's been I was going to say a fascinating season. It's been a very challenging season, no doubt. So we'll get the perspective of our next guest, who's been in the game for many, many years, played the very highest level, and knows his stuff when it comes to football. So Mel Eves, welcome to the show. Great to have you on board.
Always a pleasure, Jimmy.
Yeah, great to have you on board, Mel. And I sort of felt, with the season drawing to a close, who better to speak to than yourself, with your experience in the game and in the media, and also understanding performance. I mean, you've got this sort of eclectic mix, Mel, that the sort of perfect guest to speak about the season and your take on it. I mean, what did you make of the season, Mel? The curtain was drawn down. I know there's the Champions League still to come along, but the Premier League itself, what was your take on it? How would you surmise it, Mel, from sort of start to finish?
Well, I thought it was incredible what Klopp's done at Liverpool, and quite rightly gets manager of the season. And it's been a 30-year wait for the Reds, and I just hats off to them. I know that obviously everybody in Manchester probably wouldn't want to hear that because of the friendly rivalry. But I think you've just got to say congratulations to Liverpool. I don't think City did much wrong. They've just got obviously Laporte getting injured early on, I think, was a big one for them. And but some of City's football again has been absolutely breathtaking. Yeah. And then the other one that I've been impressed with is obviously Solskjaer getting it right eventually at Man U. They finished really strong.
That's an interesting one, that, Mel, that you say. I mean, our other guest, he's a conditioning coach that works in football. And one thing I was going to sort of put to you as well, Mel, we look at Solskjaer and say, up until they sort of hit some form before the lockdown, but what do you sort of put it down to? The Fernandes signing? Do you think it was that they prepared really well during lockdown? I mean, United sort of really, really intrigued me how they sort of bounced back. What's your take on that, Mel, as a performance coach and understanding of performance as well?
Well, he's obviously got some togetherness. He's obviously hit a formula, with the young lad Greenwood, and what a talent he looks, by the way. Pogba coming back into the fold, and with Fernandes forming, formidable centre of the midfield, and getting the team spirit must be fantastic there. He's, just hats off to him. I think he's obviously got tremendous players, which Man United always have. They've always got the ability to attract the best players, but it's one thing getting players in, but it's another thing is moulding them to be as formidable as they can be. And Sir Alex Ferguson proved that everybody. It's just been one manager after another who's struggled to reignite Man United as the as a number one force which they were used to being for many years under Fergie, and all I can say is well done to Ollie.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I mean, your team, Mel, Wolves, obviously had a prolific career there. You'd won stuff there, and you'll always be remembered at Wolves, and you sort of worked in the media now as well. You sort of cover them as well. Where do you sort of see them? I've sort of followed them closely this season, thinking, can they sort of make a push for that top four? I suppose there were times where they kind of flirted with it. You thought, well, they could break through. What do you make of Wolves season, Mel, yourself? What do you need? What do they need to do next season to maybe get in that top four? Is it possible?
Well, it is. I think one of the keys has been obviously the recruitment of Nuno Espirito Santo, who's been absolutely wonderful signing. He's been there 3 seasons now.
Yeah.
The other thing has been the recruitment of players. They haven't made many, there hasn't been many mistakes. Virtually all of the players they've bought have performed, and some of them spectacularly. He's turned around the likes of people like Adama Traore, who probably a lot of people in football would class as the most improved player.
Yeah.
Probably over from last season to this season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then a lot of the players like Jota, who've come in as young lads. We got a young lad Petro Neto now, another one to look at. They've made some really good signings that have kicked on. They've made some obvious signings that have were world-class players anyways, such as João Moutinho. Obviously, you don't play over 100 times for Portugal if you're not world-class. So
absolutely.
and the goalkeeper Rui Patricio as well. There's been some first-class signings, but then there are some lads that have been at the club for probably a decade each, with Connor Cody and Matt Doherty's the other one. They've been tremendous, and they were bought in for probably a couple of million. I think Cody and Matt Doherty, I'm not sure what it was, or whether it was a free signing or whatever, or come through the system. But it tell you what, it's incredible that the way they've all signed up, and they're all on the same hymn sheet that Nuno's conducting. And,
absolutely.
He's and I think we were talking before the before we started the interview proper, Jimmy. And an interesting stat is that pre-VAR, in other words, before VAR, if we took it last season, Wolves would have actually been third in the table, not seventh.
Yeah.
They've been the club that's been most negatively impacted by VAR, and so I think that can feel a little bit hard done by. I've been blessed to have been in the press box on many occasions covering Wolves for the local radio, and some of the VAR decisions that have gone against them have been everybody's been scratching their head and thinking, what on earth is going on? It's nonsensical, and I'm sure that they have to, for me, they have to get together. There has to be a massive review about VAR, not the fact that the technology is there, it is the use of the technology. It's all right, it's a bit like anything, it's a bit like inventing the latest knife or scalpel. It's absolutely wonderful with the technology. You can cut to the micro level to get it absolutely right of what you're doing. That's brilliant. But the actual tool has to be in the hands of a top surgeon, not some idiots who could go around killing everybody. So in other words, the technology can make the right decisions, can save lives actually, but in the right hands. This is it. I'm questioning the ability of the people at Stockley Park to make the correct decisions that everybody is, that the vast majority of people are in favour of. Because some decisions, even that 90+% of people will be absolutely flabbergasted that they haven't got what we would call the correct decision. And they have to look at that. They have to look at the rule, what you call the laws of the game, as far as which they changed in a few instances. They made some changes to the rules before the VAR come in. Okay, yeah. Which they thought was going to help. So obviously, I think they must have done it for the best intentions, obviously. So, but clarifying handball in the box. What's in other words, there was nothing about what's intentional, what's not intentional, what's dangerous play, what's not dangerous play. If it hits somebody's shoulder and they're not even looking in the penalty box, it's a penalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen some absolutely stupid interpretation of the rules, of the laws of the game. Sorry, that they need looking at, and then the match referee surely has to be guided or asked to look at the monitor at the game on the halfway line, off the pitch, if it's recommended that you might want to look at this ref because we feel that it's not a penalty, or we feel it is a penalty, or we feel that that's a clear sending off and you've missed it, or that's not a sending off. So, in other words, there's got to be some clear guidance to the referee.
Yeah. No,
and then he needs to be encouraged, because it's his game at the end of the day, not some faceless person at Stockley Park that either rules something in or rules something out, and everybody's scratching their head thinking, well, he's obviously got that wrong, and then there's no recourse at all.
No, I've certainly seen a couple of Wolves games on TV this year, and sort of, at times Nuno being incensed with some of these decisions, and it's one of them, Mel, I suppose, like you've mentioned there. I think that it probably does need developing and sort of back to the drawing board, and this sort of can't go on, and going forward. But what do you think of this, Mel? For me, I think that would it be viable to get more people who sort of played the game at a good level? That's sort of not, sort of not to discriminate people who haven't played the game. Obviously, people who haven't played the game, know the game in different capacities. But someone like yourself, Mel, you've played the game at the highest level. You can if you looked at the screen, you can sort of almost tell intuitively if someone's deliberately stuck a hand up for a handball, or if they're just sort of covering their face. Are they missing a trick by not getting more people involved in the game at referee level and decision making to play the game?
Exactly, Jimmy. Because you see this in say in cricket, you'll get a lot of good ex-pros, or at least played the game at, say, at county level, that go on and be first, brilliant umpires. And there's an instinct, you instinctively know what's going on. Yeah. And I don't think that it's certainly obvious that a lot of, not all, but a lot of the guys that are making some of these decisions have never played the game to any level at all. And because they haven't played the game, they go on and going, well, I'll be a referee then, because I can't even. I've got two left feet. Yeah. And I never get picked for the team, and so I'll be a referee.
Definitely get that significance.
It gets some kind of importance and enjoyment of the game that way. And I'm thinking, well, look, I'm not touring everybody the same.
No, absolutely.
Please, some of my referee mates don't come like a ton of bricks onto me, because I have got a lot of friends that are top referees, and they do a great job.
Yeah, it's not an easy job. Exactly.
In general, and I've only refereed kind of some practice games or some academy games, but what have you. But sometimes, and I'll tell you what, it's not the easy.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's not
easy at all.
No, it's not sort of having a go at them. They're doing the best they can. Well, it's just sort of in terms of the system, thinking, you know what, we've got to get people who've been in the game involved also. And I think as well as that, it's like, I remember that guy. I don't know if you remember that referee, that Kalina. I don't know if he played at any sort of level, but he was just such a firm figure. The Italian ref years ago. He had shaved head and eyes bulging, and he's a sort of character. If he makes a decision, you're just going to sort of run with it. But I just think people who are, there's also like a, maybe they sort of, I don't know if they do it, but maybe do like a personality screening, sort of getting people involved who are really focused, got a real attention to detail, because this can't go on. These decisions, there's been some, to be fair, poor decisions, and you could argue they all even themselves out, but there are pivotal moments in the season, aren't there, where you get a win and you're on the way,
there are some key decisions. I mean, even Wolves in the last game, the referee who gives a decision free kick right on the edge of the box, which is, you know, some of the players now, it's akin to a penalty, isn't it? With the way that, you know, the quality that some of the lads have got, and you think, and then instinctively I knew it wasn't even a free kick. The Wolves players were incensed. Alonso had obviously kind of fell over, thinking he was probably going to get challenged or kicked by Pedro Neto, but the kid obviously just went for the ball initially, but then pulled his foot away, which he clearly did. And then the TV afterwards shows that clearly, that he never touched him at all and pulled his foot away. And yet VAR didn't get involved to advise the referee, oh sorry, you've got that wrong. So if that's not a clear and obvious error, what is?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's just one of them. I think certainly there's an opportunity now to sort of go back to the drawing board and think. Yeah.
You've got a game that's vital for both teams. You're going into injury time because it's no goals, and you get a decision like that which puts Chelsea 1-up. Wolves are still fuming about it, and then within a minute concede another goal because their heads have gone. We talk about that's nothing to do with the VAR stuff. That's to do with they should have been more focused. The manager and the captain should have actually got the team and said, look, we know it's the wrong decision. We've been hard done by here, but concentrate, right? Just get it out your head, concentrate. And they were all over the place after that because they still got it in their heads about the referees absolutely done them there, or not just the ref, but the fact that VAR didn't intervene to say, ref, you've got that totally wrong, mate. It looked to start with, it could have been, but the guy didn't follow through, and your man's gone over, and he's not been touched. But I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that was what VAR was there to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's and that's, I think, like you says, I think that, you know, it's one of them things where I think, or maybe it's just going to take time to sort of get the system perfected. But the thing in football, time is not a luxury in terms of, you know, hitting the ground running. And what about your take on player of the season, Mel? I mean, we looked at De Bruyne this year, and he's been breathtaking. He's just, what a talent, you know, Man City's De Bruyne, and obviously Henderson's been a rock for Liverpool. I've watched him play a few times this season. Phenomenal. What's your take on sort of which player stuck out for you this season, Mel?
Well, I've been fortunate to, as you say, to see pretty well I've seen every team live, covering it for the radio, and there's been some tremendous players. But as you say, De Bruyne, I think he's a Rolls Royce, isn't he? I mean, he's top draw. He's so smooth. It's frightening, and his ability. And the other thing is that his vision, as well as ability and appreciation of the game, is just different class. He's just, he's right up there. I think for me, I think Henderson has got the vote because he's taking it for the whole Liverpool team for me.
Yeah.
If you get me, I think it's basically, I think we'll give it to Henderson as individually, but I think he probably he gets it, and it's endorsed by the fact that Liverpool have just took everything by storm and done so well.
Absolutely, yeah. And
so I think that's really the way that I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you made an interesting point before about Traore, Mel, which I found really intriguing, and the reason being is a few years ago, I think Traore was playing for Middlesbrough at the time, but I saw him play a few years ago, Mel, and I thought this lad here's got all the physical attributes. In the right environment, he could play and be one of the best players in the Premier League, if not the world. And a colleague of mine sort of just couldn't get their head around. I just thought, I sort of look at, with my background in sort of, fitness as well as psychology, I look at players like the attributes, and sometimes, it's obviously there's a lot more to being a sports person, footballer, than that, but I suppose you look at Nuno and you sort of take him to the next level. Do you think that, say, I know this is sort of, we look at, say, Bielsa, we've already at Leeds, and there are players who are already saying, younger players that are saying that if he is, obviously, is every reason he'll still be at Leeds next season, that they'd like to play under him. How important is it, Mel, you've been obviously a player at the highest level yourself, a manager that you believe in that can help take your game to a new level. How significant is that?
Yeah, well, I think the environment that you engender at the club and in the dressing room, within the squad, is absolutely vital. And players need to feel they need to feel wanted. They need to feel approved of. There are three basic human needs: of being safe and secure in the environment. So they need to feel that they're part of it. They need to feel in control of their own destiny, and that the manager is in control of the team. And they need to feel, the biggest one is, players need to feel approved of and wanted. Mm-hmm. And Nuno, and then the manager has to get the balance between that. He doesn't feel that all the players feel that they have an opportunity, and that the manager hasn't got his favourites, so to speak. Mm. And that you treat everybody evenly, and everybody's part of it. And it's a family environment, and they're all part of the tribe. Mm. And I think that's the important thing. And that as we go back, I've mentioned Fergie earlier on. Mm. That. And I'm sure that Nuno's the same, and Pep, although Pep kind of gives this aura about being not kind of very laid back. I'm sure that none of them, absolutely none of them, suffer fools gladly. Mm. And that one of my sayings is that your attitude determines your altitude, and the way that. That managers such as Nuno and Pep and what have you will guide and help players, but they've got to have the right attitude, that they want to be helped.
Absolutely.
And my feedback says that that where you got Traore, which I first really saw the lad. I know that he was at Villa, but I can't remember him too much at Aston Villa when he came over from Barcelona to start with as a kid, and then Villa, and then he went to Middlesbrough. You said you picked him up. I saw him at Middlesbrough as well, playing against Wolves.
Yeah.
And you could see.
He just looked a player now. He just looked like
he's got something, but everybody's saying there's the end product is not as good as it should be. Yeah. And but Wolves, as I say, Wolves went for it, paid the I think it was the 16 million in the get out clause or the buyout clause in the contract, and initially there were a lot of people scratching their heads thinking, can he do it? We see it every now and again, but the end product just wasn't there initially. Last season, so everybody's scratching their head, and not the season that's just gone, but the previous season, like his first season in the Premier League. But the transformation, as you say, for this season has been brilliant, and he's not only tearing teams apart. His end product, either scoring goals himself, which he's, he's incredibly. I don't know whether I should mention it on your show, Jimmy. I'm just pulling your leg, but Wolves actually did the double over Man City this season. And Traore was the difference.
Yes, one of the games, the game where he bumped. Who was that? He just sort of shrugged off.
Well, he does that to everybody. Yeah. But I mean, he's because he's built like a mini Mike Tyson, isn't he?
Absolutely,
and he just kind of bounces everybody off.
Absolutely.
And then he's so quick off the mark from a standing start that people just can't. They might know what he's trying to do. They still give themselves 2 or 3 yards, thinking, well, I know he's going to knock it past me there, and I'll just give myself a couple of yards. But they still can't. Can't get to it.
Exactly.
And people are scratching their head. And yet, if you overcompensate and think, well, he's going to go there and give yourself 3 yards, he just goes straight through. You're on the inside.
Yeah.
So he just goes the other way, and you're thinking. So that's why it takes 2, even 3 people ganging up on him to have any chance, and it's remarkable. He's wonderful to watch when he's in full flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think he'll stay at Wolves, Mel? I mean, there's been talk this season that he could.
Look. Every player's got a price, and as well as managers and things, that'll take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that. The thing about Wolves is that, along with the manager, because the manager's been courted by clubs as well, or the press saying that, different clubs may be looking at Nuno as well. Yeah. For me, I think he's got a job. He's really enjoyed his job at Wolves. The owners have, fortunately given him as much backing as he's asking for, and the recruitment has been the key. I started off with that, and I think that's going to be crucial. It's a very short turnaround this season, obviously because of the lockdown situation. But as with quite a few clubs, well, with every club really, recruitment's key. That's what's been the difference with Liverpool winning the league. Klopp identified that that centre half and the goalkeeper were two positions he needed to get world class players in. And he obviously did that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point, Mel. And he sort of stuck by him too. I mean, it's like all his signings, he's sort of, like he says, he seems to have got him right. But I think next season is going to be a huge season, a really interesting one. I mean, obviously we'll see a resurgent Chelsea. United will be looking to sort of push again. Will Liverpool hang on their players? Can Wolves, Tottenham break into the top 4? What an incredible season we've got in prospect next season, Mel.
Wow.
Well,
it's going to be absolutely wonderful. I mean, and then you've also got probably 3 weakest teams or clubs kind of went down, and now you've got some bigger clubs coming up. I mean, Leeds, as we know from Leeds in the 70s,
absolutely,
and they've got such a tremendous history.
Absolutely.
And with Bielsa and what have you, Leeds could be a big force and could upset a few people as well. And West Brom obviously have been used to being there, so they're not going to be easy to play against as well. So there's going to be a lot of competition.
A nice little Midlands mix there. Leicester, West Brom.
Well, that's right. There are the only Midlands derby before last season, before Villa come up. Obviously, got Villa. Villa have hung on. Which traditionally, obviously, former European Cup winners. And
I'm not sure about their celebrations, Mel. It's one of them. I don't know if you saw that, but I know obviously they're excited to stay up. But I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday, and we talked about the celebrations. I thought, well, a club like Villa, you kind of, I don't want us to be disrespectful to the players. Obviously, they're euphoric about staying up, but you kind of think, well, the dressing room celebrations that's sort of staying up. I know it's a difficult one to comment on, but I'm not so sure, Mel, about celebrating
Well, I agree with you to a little bit, but it just shows how big it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and I think it was just
the euphoria. Yeah.
I think it was just the fact that 4 games ago they were dead and buried. I think they were 4 points behind, with only 4 games to go, and the games weren't easy.
Yeah.
And they got some really good results, and the other teams caved in, such as Watford, and whatever. You couldn't get a point from anywhere, and fortunately for them, they stayed up by a point. So
absolutely, yeah, and for sure, I think
I can understand that, but I get where you're coming from. It's a little bit embarrassing, really, that they have to. That's what all they can celebrate, because of traditionally they're they're a big, they're what you call one of the
huge club,
bigger clubs.
Absolutely, huge club, and it's like. He makes some great points there. And I was speaking to someone yesterday, a young footballer, and we were having this sort of conversation. And I mean, they've sort of seen the likes of Chelsea and City, and they've grown up around teams like that, obviously doing really, really well. But you've made a good point. They're the likes of Leeds and Villa. I mean, these are huge clubs, and they're sort of back again. And it's hard to imagine that. Obviously, with them sort of not performing, I think that they're the first to admit they've sort of been under the radar. But these are huge clubs, and I would say every bit as big, if not around the world, and then the likes of some of these sort of clubs have just risen in the last 10, 15 years, Mel. I mean, they've had history, obviously, but the investments obviously taken them to a new level as well.
Oh, absolutely, Jimmy. I mean, on the other side as well, I would just like to say, just echo what Harry Redknapp said. I caught a Harry Redknapp interview, obviously just giving his take on Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, and what Bournemouth have done, because Bournemouth have been in the Premier League for the last 5 years, as with Watford. I think they came up at the same time, and Bournemouth, in old money, is just, they're like a 3rd or 4th division club.
Absolutely.
And I think anybody over 35, 40 would just class Bournemouth. Well, they're just it's a good little setup. Nice little trip to the south coast, to the seaside, to see to play Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And they had 1 or 2 famous little cup runs, but that was about it. And it's just a nice little provincial club. And you're thinking, well, and then to keep them in the Premier League for 5 years on the trot, with no into going down really, until it's just gone wrong this season.
Yeah, no, great.
I think they've just talk about overachieving.
No, they have, and also some of the players who they've been on the journey since League Two. And I mean, I remember sort of when at the time when Bournemouth were in League Two, I was working at Bury Football Club, and sort of we'd played them then, and they actually bought one of our players, Pewey, and he sort of stayed with them all the way up to the Premier League. And there were so many players that you mentioned there that they didn't really, they stayed within their budget. But I suppose it bodes well from there's every chance they could sort of bounce back up. They've sort of adopted, you could argue, a similar model to like Burnley. They're not overspent, so the payment they get.
And that's another model there. You've got to talk about managers. You've got to say Sean Dyche again.
Yeah.
As he's got a formula there. They're pretty what you would call. I think teams can reflect the manager, can't they? So I think they're probably a little bit dour and obstinate and kind of get results. And but all credit to them. I think they, to be in the top half of the table again, he's and give a few of the bigger teams a bit of an upset and a bloody nose, etc.
Absolutely.
Could have easily won at Anfield as well a couple of weeks ago, and all credit to them. Yeah. So I mean, look, I agree with you. It's a mouth-watering prospect, and it's going to be a really interesting season in probably about 6 weeks' time, I think.
Absolutely, yeah, no, for sure, Mel. But yeah, no, absolutely. It's been great speaking to you, Mel, as always, and no doubt we'll sort of get you back on again next season as well. You always speak a lot of sense, and sort of no doubt our listeners have sort of really enjoyed your take on the season. It's been fantastic, and so definitely look forward to speaking to you again throughout the season, Mel. So thanks for joining us on Salford City Radio 94.5 FM. Your host and Petruzzi. That was Mel Eves, who played the game at the highest level. Wolves legend, played for a number of other teams as well, and is working as in the media as well and performance coaching, sort of telling us his perspective on the season, which was really fascinating. Thanks again, Mel. All the best.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy.
So you're listening to Salford City Radio 94.4 FM with your host Jimmy Petruzzi on the Friday Sports Show, bringing all the news from the local area and around the world. We're very fortunate on this show to bring us to the world's best sports people, athletes. We've had some huge names in the world of sport, coaches, fitness trainers. We also have a new segment bringing you some of those influential people in the field of psychology and related fields, with some huge names in the field of psychology and related fields. And today we have a regular of the show. He's been on the show a few times before. He's been really kind enough to join us on the show to give us some insights into what he's doing and a few tips and so on and so forth. And today, Paul Oldham, the founder of Mind Influence, Body Influence, is a personal trainer, fitness trainer, also a mind coach. No doubt it's been a challenging year, and from what I can see, and having spoken to her, she's adapted really well to lockdown and doing training via Zoom, and obviously restrictions have been lifted in the last few weeks, and the gym's reopening as well, or has reopened. So Paul, great to have you on board. Welcome to the show. How's things getting on?
Cheers, Jimmy. I'm glad to be back. First session was this morning, so it's good to be back in the fitness centre as well.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And just for our listeners, we're still on pre-record at Salford, so at this point, Paul has a sort of reopened in accordance to guidelines, and it's great to see. And also, like Paul, it gives had the feeling of sort of reopening and the members coming back in.
Oh, it was brilliant to be fair this morning, because we've had to be cautious and not open on a Saturday, so we didn't get too many numbers, because we're allowed one person per 100 square foot, so it's 4,200 square foot. Our place, so we technically have 42 in the building, so we had to be mindful of timing of opening, so we left it to the Monday, and that way we've got 4 sessions on today, so we've been able to spread the numbers and get, say, like 12 at every session, as opposed to getting 40 at one, for example.
And what's been the feeling, Paul, with the members coming back in? And I know you guys sort of had a program via Zoom, and what's been the feeling for the members to sort of come back in and start training?
This is exciting to get back with music on, because we've done Zoom and obviously it's good, but it's not the same, and we've done boot camps outdoor, but once you get in our fitness centre, obviously you've been it yourself, it's all natural light coming through music, and it's the energy and the atmosphere just grab you. So really this morning was just pure excitement, but obviously being sensible at the same time and not hugging people and things like that,
Yeah, and absolutely. No, it's a great point you've made there, and obviously it is sort of following the guidelines and so on and so forth. But in terms of yourself, Paul, you sort of obviously you kept going via Zoom, and are you still doing Zoom at the moment? Is it still going to be an option too, or is it something you're going to sort of put in the back burner?
Yeah, well, because Zoom was so successful and we got some good results through Zoom, a lot of new members actually joined us and just came on Zoom and loved it. So we've now done a hybrid model. So, for example, we couldn't put spin on straight away because of the restrictions. So we put Zoom on instead of our spin sessions. So the members have got loads of flexibility now. They've got 3 Zoom sessions plus the ones in the fitness centre. So it gives them a lot of flexibility and options.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. And a couple of questions I want to sort of find across to get your perspective, Paul. Obviously, you're sort of a top fitness trainer. You work with some of the top sports people in this country and around the world, and you work with footballers as well. And I'm sort of going to get your perspective in terms of what your thoughts are on some of the football teams coming back after lockdown. It's quite interesting, really. Obviously, we saw Man United go on a winning run, which you could argue started before the lockdown to a point. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on sort of the teams that sort of came back firing on all cylinders after lockdown? And for me, some of the teams, it's difficult to comment, obviously, because I don't know what goes on with certain teams. What are your thoughts in terms of some of the teams that sort of came out guns blazing after lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it comes down to team spirit again, doesn't it? So the ones who are best mates off the pitch and have stayed connected and obviously kept fit, they're the ones who have done well. The ones who may be a bit disjointed, had more time with the family and not done as much, they then have to have at least 2 weeks to get back going. But it shows like Man United hit the ground running, didn't they?
Yeah.
Straight away, but you can see a lot of them are friends off the pitch and they've got all the best players firing. So it comes down to that team chemistry for me and team cohesion, how it's been through lockdown, how they stayed connected. I mean, for me personally, we've done a lot of sessions for football teams on Zoom as well, just to keep them the banter going and the connection going, which is important.
Yeah, no, definitely, and sort of keep the fitness levels topped up. And in terms of yourself, did you improvise with some of your footballers on Zoom? I mean, what did you do yourself, Paul? Did you sort of have a long hard think, okay, it's not just about the physical side. I've got to sort of keep them in good spirits mentally too.
Yeah, well, that's a massive thing. It's talking a bit about, there's obviously a lot of time there through lockdown to work on the weaknesses as well, do some visualisation techniques and things like that, and just a bit of accountability for them, really. They can check in after they've been for a run, give me a call at any time. Otherwise, they just left it on their own. They're more likely to be demotivated. So really, it's just about keeping them motivated for when they can come back to hit the ground running as soon as the season starts. Yeah,
and do you think that's something that we can take from sports people, so the general population can take in terms of, you know, being ready in terms of at the right time? And it can be quite difficult, obviously, and I can fully appreciate people in lockdown, and it can feel really, really challenging, and the uncertainty and all the sort of stuff that's going on, and it's a very challenging time. But equally in saying that, I think what you've done really well with your members as well as your athletes, Paul, is you sort of saw the light and focus on the light at the end of the tunnel. And is that really important for people to think, okay, eventually things there'll be some normality, to make sure you're ready for as and when it happens?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've appointed Ryan Marsh as a goal-setting coach for the body influence, and we never had that before. It was me doing everything. So Ryan's now stepped in straight away at the start of lockdown. So as soon as we went to lockdown, he literally had a phone call with 90% of the members, went through their goals for after lockdown. Obviously, it's been 4 months. So then that's just given us something to focus on. The ones who didn't set goals are basically the ones who struggled. The ones who did set goals have done well throughout lockdown, and a lot of them have actually lost body fat and gained fitness. So it's just having, like you said, something to aim for, and then you go from there.
Yes, that's really interesting. It seems like that Ryan's been a game changer in terms of your approach, Paul. Is that something that you sort of thought about in terms of where your members were and what they might need? I mean, I think you made some really big decisions at the gym over the years, and you know, I suppose it shows that you sort of think about putting the members first. And do you think that's been a game changer for you guys in terms of having someone to do that?
Yeah, I think 100%, because obviously I'm running the business, doing everything, and I think now Ryan has basically he's got his own personal training clients, but he's basically just had goal setting to focus on, and obviously the body track, which is where we do the body fat and the measurements, and now he's basically got every member, profile of every member on his laptop, and he sits down with us as like 20-minute slots with every single member now. But he's got time to think about it, to analyse, to have the phone calls with him, and he give his full energy rather than me giving maybe 70% energy. It's been important to develop the aspects of the business, because especially with our members, that's what they need. They need that accountability. They need the extra support to get the results. And obviously you've seen we've had some fantastic results, but that's come not just from training, but from nutrition, from goal setting, from everything. Really.
Absolutely. And how important do you think that's been, the goal setting, in terms of helping the members sort of work on their goals, the body fat goals, the fitness goals, and has that been really instrumental in sort of guiding people towards achieving them?
Yeah, it's been big. It's been big for when, say, they've had the holidays, say we've set 12-week goals, because we do it between 8 and 12 weeks. If they've been away for a week and they feel like they've put body fat on and so on, it just helps them refocus, because they might do well the first 3 weeks, they might drop off a little bit for a week, but the end goal is that 12 weeks, so it gets them to refocus, and we can always relate back to the goals. Whereas if nothing was there, they might leave it a week and then find it another week hard to get back into and lose that motivation again. But we've got to trigger and inspire them all the time, and that's what the goal setting does.
Yeah, it's really interesting you're saying, and I can sort of relate to that in one sense, Paul, because I've been sort of lecturing this year, and most of the lectures were in the evening as well, and apart from Friday, and obviously with all the changes going on, and sort of, you know, things happen really quickly into lockdown, and a lot of changes, and things have been sort of updated along the way. There has been times where you kind of feel I wouldn't say lost, but you kind of feel a little bit, okay, I need direction. So I actually had the occasional coaching session myself, and I felt it really helped to be able to sort of re-navigate so I could just be the best I could be for my learners, just to sort of make sure and that I'm in the sort of best place and most resourceful state for them. And do you think it's about being and having a coach, not necessarily to tell you what you do, but just to sort of guide you to be in that most resourceful state you can be?
Yeah, but to keep pushing you so you don't get complacent as well, because you need to go to that next level. And obviously that's what I'm doing in Mind Influence. I have clients who are doing really well, but I'm now taking them to the next level, because a lot of them don't know what that next level is, but I can come in from the outside and I can question them, do things thought-provoking for them, and work on the weaknesses, because at the end of the day, every single person can improve no matter what level you're at, and everyone needs role models, but the mentor will help push them towards to get to where their role models are as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting you're saying, and I think having that sort of communal feel as well that you've sort of kept as well, I think in these very challenging times that we have at the moment, it's very easy sometimes to feel a bit isolated, and particularly when obviously lockdown was very heavily enforced, and obviously it was important to do so, and we sort of followed the guidelines. And in terms of the sort of having a community to be around, has that been an instrumental part of you guys? I know we sort of touched on that before, but it seems to be that whenever anyone's struggling, you're all there for each other, Paul. That's a big thing.
That's the big thing as well, especially with careers and people losing jobs and things like that, and having issues with their families. The kids are not being able to go to school, so it's been a release for them. But you might not see, but in our fitness centre at the moment, we've just got a new quote, and it says more than just a fitness centre. So that's our biggest philosophy that we work with. Everything comes back to that. So we're a community, we're very social, and we support people through the tough times, and then obviously we party when we can celebrate the results of when things have gone well as well.
Absolutely, because a big part of what you guys did were social events too, and you were doing them on Zoom as well. And sort of what's the situation with the social events, Paul? Are you going to sort of carry on Zoom, or is there going to be a point where you can sort of get back out? I mean, obviously there'll be a point at some point where you can get back out there again, but are you still doing the stuff on Zoom to sort of, I know you had some people in and you sent me a few invites, and as well, and a lot of the time I was lecturing when they were on. I couldn't join you, but it looked really interesting. You had like singers and quizzes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been really, really good, and we've not had the singers for the time being, because a lot of them are going back into normal work and stuff now. But we've done a lot of pub quizzes. We've kept that going, and then what we're going to do, our next event, we're not going to put it on straight away, but we're looking like 6 weeks from now, which is when we've reopened. So we're not going to rush into it, but when the time's right, we'll put like a wine tasting event on, and then go to like a Motown and soul night, and then eventually have our Christmas party, really. So the Christmas party has been a big one which the members are looking forward to. And again, it ties in with goal setting. They all want to get fit and look good on that Christmas party.
Fantastic. So they've got something to aim for. They've got something to sort of aim for. And how's Mind Influence going? I mean, that was a sort of new venture we spoke about a few months ago. And how's that sort of developing, Paul, Mind Influence?
Yeah, really, really well. And obviously my core business is body influence. But I wanted to do Mind Influence for the last 8 years now, and work on people's personal development and look at the coaching aspects of improving people and getting people outside the comfort zone, setting accountability tasks. But yeah, it's been good. So I've got my first 5 clients on that now. And that's only been set up in the last 10 weeks, which I've been really excited about. Obviously, I'm keen not to just go 2 feet in straight away. I've got to build it up slowly. And I've been getting my testimonials. I've got my website going now. So I'd like another 2 clients by Christmas, and then I can then give my full effort to all 7 clients then.
Fantastic. And let's say, like, for any listeners in terms of now, tuning in and thinking now that they want to kickstart their training. I know obviously it's impossible to give advice. Everyone's on their own journey. You've got to take into account a lot of various factors. But let's say, for example, you've got someone who hasn't really been training a lot over lockdown, and maybe now they're thinking, well, I want to sort of get back into it. What are some of the things that they can do, Paul, in terms of getting back into training again?
Yeah, I think the first thing is they've not got a coach to create a plan themselves. That's the first thing. So they can do like a 12-week plan, and then the first week will be just walking, so 2 times a week, and then the second week will be 2 walks and a jog, and then the third week might be 2 walks, 1 jog, and then yoga. And then the 5th week or 4th week they might bring in some high intensity training. And then if they feel ready, then they might then be ready to join a gym again and go back to a fitness centre or get a personal trainer. But I think just breaking it down into phases will help them. they don't overdo it too soon. And they're going to need something that's sustainable for them, that they can keep up long term, the long term plan.
Absolutely, and obviously, being able to adapt as well to certain situations, and sort of keeping on, obviously you've got to keep going, but being adaptable. And in terms of like yourself, I mean, did you guys as a fitness centre, from the experience that you've been through, have any sort of learnings yourself in terms of like obviously reverting to Zoom, and what are your sort of thoughts in generally now? Supplementing training with Zoom as sort of things hopefully keep easing from the lockdown situation.
Yeah, I think we've been very lucky that we've got such good software and obviously platforms out there. Obviously we looked at 6 or 7 different ones, and Zoom was the one we thought we'd go with, and it works really well. So in the future we've learned a lot about online, what to do, what not to do, and eventually we may even bring an online part to our business when the time's right. And eventually, as we bring spin back in, we're potentially going to keep at least one Zoom on anyway, because I think it gives people flexibility if they're running from work late, stuck in traffic. They've still got that accountability of a coach, but they always have to get to the fitness centre. And also, we recorded all 50 plus sessions that we did on Zoom. So then it's all in the file section in the members group. So it acts as a resource then as well. So if anyone's struggling to get to the fitness centre and can't even get on our live ones, they can just go in the album section and the file section and catch up. So it's a bit of a resource as well, and a bit of a content for our members.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff that you say that, Paul, and I think that's really important as well. And we've seen around the world things change, and they can change pretty quick under the certain situations. And for example, I don't know the full implications, but in Melbourne, in Australia, they went. I'm pretty sure they went back into lockdown recently again. Things having eased. A couple of months ago, so we've sort of seen how things can sort of change, really rapidly with this sort of pandemic going on. And I mean, you guys as a centre, obviously, you got your finger on the pulse, and you sort of, when everything changes, you're sort of at the forefront. But is that something that you sort of been thinking about too? Without sort of casting, doom, and hopefully things keep going forward now. But obviously, the pandemic being the way it is, we just don't know. But did you sort of think of you guys sort of thought, okay, if it happens, if we do go in lockdown again, we've got a platform that's good to go and roll out straight away?
Yeah, we've got obviously the plans there as well. You always got to jump to plan B sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes obviously the plan C and plan D. So what ours will be is an adaptation of plan B, and it's like a plan C as such. So it'd be Zoom, and obviously live singers coming in again, pub quizzes. But obviously we're very lucky. We've built a lot of good relationships up, and already we've got the experience of the online platform. So then it'd be an advanced version of Zoom to still keep the members excited.
Yeah, that must be reassuring.
To look forward to.
Yeah, really reassuring for the members too, in terms of knowing that you've got that sort of backup plan just in case. Obviously, we can't control certain things, but we have seen, like I've mentioned, around the world, places sort of go into lockdown again and changes, really, really rapidly. So it's always, good to know, I suppose, that sort of reassurance. But let's say, on all things being well, and what about, say, the footballers, Paul? I know you've got loads of experience. I've worked with you in football as well. You're great at what you do, and you're very enthusiastic and fantastically knowledgeable. And we've got a lot of footballers who listen to the show as well, and some of them are pro, some of them are amateur, some of them just semi-pro. The ones that are listening, sort of thinking, okay, the season, there's no definites at the moment as to when it will start, but there's been a few things that have been mentioned. But I do stand corrected. Something sort of changed on that end. But what are your thoughts as to say footballers listening, Paul? Who sort of, what can they do to get back into it if they haven't really been training a lot in lockdown as well?
Yeah, again, it's just focus on your own game, isn't it? Because I know myself, a lot of teams can't start the season yet, or even pre-season friendlies because of attendances. Everyone needs a COVID officer and things like that. So you basically just got to focus on your strengths and focus on your weaknesses. Create a plan for yourself. And obviously, if you can get like a coach, do private one-to-one, or get in the park with your friends and do a little bit of work if you're not with a team at the moment. And just basically focus on, as soon as you get that date for that first game of the season, that's what all your work behind the scenes is for, that first game of the season. So you've got to keep yourself fit. You might have to do some yoga to improve your flexibility. You might have to work on your left foot. You might have to work on your core strength. So whatever you need to work on, you need to do privately. And then all these parts of the jigsaw will add up for that first game of the season, which is what it comes down to. But this is now the time to work hard behind the scenes when basically no one's watching, then you're ready for that first game of the season.
Great point. That's a really good point. And do yourselves, I mean, do you guys sort of do specific training just for athletes, Paul, or do you sort of just do that on an ad hoc basis? Do you have classes for athletes too and for footballers?
We don't have classes, but I've still got the brand football performance coaching, which we always do. We keep going all the way through. Again, it's not our main focus, but we always have a place for at least 4 athletes available, and always 2 football teams. So I'm still working closely with Ramsbrook United at the moment, doing work with them. And we're always available. We've got 3 coaches now as well. So if I can't be there, I've got my coaching staff to go there and look after them as well. But we do a lot of stuff, and obviously I can work on the mental side of the game for football as well.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I mean, obviously you're a visionary, Paul. You sort of a person who's got big plans and the vision. And have you ever you mentioned there sort of families and so on and so forth, and sort of is there something you sort of considered? I'm not sure if you already doing, say, for example, working with sort of youngsters as well who are looking to improve their physical fitness and maybe coordination and speed, agility.
Yeah, that all comes under our brand football, FPC, football performance coaching. Yeah. So what we do there is we help develop them, especially like we work with the lad Scott Johnson, who's been incredible. And he came to me at 15. Yeah, he's 19 now, so throughout that growth period, he's been working on his core strength, because as it grew so fast, he had to build his strength at the same time. So we work on their weaknesses, and we do a lot with the youth teams as well. That's obviously a very important time to implement good habits. So obviously at that time, when they're 15, 16, 17, they can either go a dedicated way and focus on the career, or they can go away with a messy round on the streets. So I think it's an important time to look after people, and obviously give them the correct education at that time.
Yeah, and sort of provide that platform to be the best they can be as well, and sort of, I mean, I suppose what sort of comes to mind is maybe schools. I mean, I'm not sure if you're sort of doing work with schools, but certainly, obviously, we saw personal trainers do sessions on Zoom for schools for PE, but I think with people like yourself, it'd be more personalised. Is that something you consider doing, Paul? Maybe sort of connecting with schools and helping them with their PE curriculum in terms of training?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So my cousin's got a company called Little Rockies, and he does it. Matthew Hatton supports it, Ricky Hatton supports it, and it's run round Tameside, all the schools around Tameside. So I'm working with Daniel behind the scenes at the moment, and he's basically got his brand, and I'd go around the Bury schools, and I'd have a coaching team with me, and we'd go around do after school clubs. We'd do something called a hands up, knives down campaign, educate people on fitness and health, but also boxing, because that's one of my passions as well as football, and then work on the nutrition and things like that. So I'm going to look at that behind the scenes, so as soon as the time's right, fingers crossed, starting next year, we can then start to get into school as well and help people that way.
Tremendous, that'd be tremendous. And obviously, if anything were to sort of change in terms of the lockdown rules, for sure we'd know that you got the contingency for Zoom as well to sort of fall back on as well. But also, things being well, you could introduce like athletic development plans to get the best out of the youngsters, not just for sport, but also just for their own self-esteem and well-being. And I suppose I need to put the question to you, Paul. It's been controversial, Bury, the new Bury. Obviously, yourself, your gym was based at the football club for a while there. And what are your sort of thoughts? Is that something you're open to get involved with, or are you involved with the guys, or what's your take on the new Bury setup?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I mean, having a club in the 9th tier is better than having no club. Yeah. And we've seen it with Salford City, with SC United, with Northwich. We've seen it with a lot of clubs who have had fans clubs and built themselves back up. And I think if they've used Ratcliffe Borough, which it looks like, they should get a good attendance of at least 1,000 fans.
Wow.
And I think it'll be run properly. But I'd always be open to help as well. To support them, either sponsor them or do whatever I can to help them, or help the players in any way. And obviously, from my point of view, good luck to them. I hope they obviously get back in the Football League as fast as they can.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, it's sort of, I suppose it's being controversial in some sense, but in saying that, like you says, I think that, one thing's for sure, I think it's not having a football club in the town has been a big loss. I mean, we all wanted to see Bury obviously helped in that situation they were in, and that wasn't forthcoming. And I suppose, it does give the town something to sort of focus on footballing wise. But so for yourself, that'd be something that you'd be interested in doing if the opportunity came up, Paul.
Yeah, I definitely support them. I mean, any opportunities I get, I always sit down, assess them. Yeah. I always have a meeting, because obviously you never know what can come of it. How can I help them? How can they help me as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm always open to any opportunity, and obviously support people however I can. Even whether the players wanting to come in the fitness centre and keep themselves fit, as well. We can always support them through body influence or through mind influence as well.
Yeah, and absolutely. So and obviously it's just up the road from where you are as well. It's not too far away. From where you are, and are you guys still doing the nutrition as well, Paul? You sort of, is that something you were doing yourself, helping the people with the nutritional side? Have you got someone on board now to help people with that as well?
Yeah, it ties in well with what Ryan Marsh is doing for us at the moment. So he obviously does the goal setting, does the body fat, which we call body track, and also he checks the food diaries for them. So they come in, they write exactly what they've been eating. Obviously, it's not for everyone, but if the members want extra support, I think it's key to keep treating them as a personal training client, as opposed to someone who's going to come and do a class and do burpees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Treat them like that, but obviously they get a lot more. The membership price is a lot lower than it would be for personal training prices. So I think that's key to giving that opportunity. We also have Shane Nugent, who's done a nutrition course for our members. We've also got 30 recipe packs for everyone. So yeah, we're big on that side of things, because obviously the big phrase we use is, you can't out-train a bad diet, which is obviously true, and we're key to support them as much as we can with the nutrition. Absolutely,
no, that's a great point for sure. But no, it's been really interesting speaking to you, Paul. It's been great to catch up, and I'm sure our listeners have got a lot of, what you sort of mentioned there, and if any of them sort of want to know more about what you guys do, obviously with you sort of doing the Zoom sessions and stuff like that, and yourself, you train with people all over. What are the details, Paul? How can they get in touch, mate, with you if anyone's sort of listening and thinking, okay, I could do with a bit of motivation and get myself back on track?
Yeah, so obviously both our businesses are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So it's Mind Influence on the platforms, and it's Body Influence Berry on the social media platforms. And the website is www.body-influence.com. And for Mind Influence, to get me that way, it's www.mindinfluence.co.uk.
Fantastic, Paul. Now, thanks for joining us. And that was Paul Oldham, the founder of Body Influence and Mind Influence, who's sort of been powering along with his fitness centre, via Zoom over the lockdown, and now obviously things have been eased and they're back to doing in-person training, obviously following the guidelines. And what an interesting insight into what he's doing, and obviously a few tips here and there as well, and he's got loads of resources as well, and like he's mentioned there on his websites available too. So fantastic, Paul. So great to have you on board the show, Paul, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Cheers, Jimmy. I appreciate your time as always, mate.
Thanks, Paul. Top man. All the best, pal.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, Jimmy.